Hey lovelies, it's Kate. Welcome back to another speed build and thank you so much for tuning in. In this speed build, I'm building a traditional family mansion on a 40 by 30 lot in Windenburg. When I started building this house, I kind of confused myself because I built the exterior on one day and then the other day I decided to furnish it, and for some reason when I loaded up my game I thought that I built this in Willow Creek, so I was really confused. I was looking for the house and I couldn't see it, and for a second I thought that something was wrong with my tray files or my save files and I got really scared. But then I remembered, no, I indeed built this in Windenburg. So I decided to build on this lot because I think it has a great size, it has a amazing landscape around it, so I felt like building here. And this house is quite rustic and dark, which is another reason why it kind of fits into Windenburg. Windenburg has a lot of Tudor builds, and this is not a Tudor build at all, but it's quite rustic and dark, as I said, so I feel like it kind of totally fits into the neighborhood of Windenburg. Usually, many of my houses are quite bright. I use a lot of white, and again, as you can see here, I'm using a lot of white. For the fence, for example, this fence is part of StrangerVille and I used this little decoration object that is part of Get Famous, but the rest of the house is quite dark, so I was going for a nice contrast between all the white that I used and a lot of dark brown and brick. I decided to put a brick house. This is something that I have rarely done, and whenever I see other sim builders use the brick wallpaper, I just love it. I think brick houses look amazing, so I figured that I also would like to give it a try, so I built a brick house. This house is quite traditional, as I said. I mean, usually I don't do many traditional builds, and this is probably as traditional as it will ever get on this channel. It's still a little bit crazy, but I feel like the floor plan and all that and the shape of the house is quite traditional. As you just saw, for the front section, I just placed one wall and then I sized up a doorway that I placed in the basement underneath. I raised it up and then I placed another regular sized doorway inside the bigger one. And this just creates a nice little entrance. Basically, I think that this is really the eye catcher of the whole exterior probably, and as always I try to add lots of details, which is why I added some columns underneath the little balconies that I placed underneath the dormers. Just beautiful in my opinion. The shape is really basic, as you can see. There's not much crazy stuff going on. I didn't use the terrain for the house itself. I just used the terrain tools to create the stairs in the front. I used a combination of the foundation pieces and some terrain tools, and I'm also going to add some a little bit crazy stairs on the right side, as you will see. And for the front section, I used rocks to kind of create stairs that are round shaped, so we don't have a shape like this in the game by default, and I kind of tried to create the illusion of stairs that are curved outwards a little bit. I was not that happy with how it turned out, but I really did my best, and it wasn't really easy to kind of work out that shape, but I think it really looks nice, and I like the contrast of the color of the rocks with the bricks. This way it's not too dark. I was going for that contrast. I used so many dark colors, but I still wanted to have a lovely contrast, so it still looks friendly, like a friendly, beautiful family home basically. At this point you can see that I used the wallpaper that is part of the bowling stuff pack, but I'm going to swap that out for some good old wood wallpaper because wood is just more rustic, and at this point the front section where I used the doorways isn't really popping. I don't like how it looks at this point, but as soon as I added some wood wallpaper I really like how it looked, and I decided that this build needs a slight pop of color basically, so I used the base game flowers on the windows, and these are blue, but there is not much difference between the blue and the white ones. There are also white ones available, and they just have a very slight tint of blue, so they don't really pop that much because this would honestly be a little bit overpowering. I really wanted the brick and the whole color scheme to be the star of this build, so a little bit of pastel blue was just enough color for this build, so it just kind of lifts the mood of this build, you could say. It makes it more friendly, more like a very homey, inviting family home. I also used some yellow flowers for the landscaping, but not on the house itself. There I just used the blue flowers. And I added some trellis at the top to the roof. This is a little bit weird. I said I tried to keep it traditional, but some stuff is a little bit crazy once again. And the trellis up there doesn't really make that much sense. It just looks beautiful. So I decided to do that. And here I'm starting to work on the stairs on the side that I mentioned. The stairs are just a way to enter the front yard. As you will see, I'm going to add a table and some chairs there. There's also going to be a very basic garden in the back, but I felt like a little front yard where your Sims can just sit and hang out is just a good idea, probably. And these stairs, I think these are actually base game stairs, are also brick colored, which is perfect. And I had to place individual pieces of fence so I could put them there. Sometimes you can't just place a fence the normal way because it will tell you that there are conflicting block clusters, but then when you just place one little section, you pick it up and place it, then most of the time it works. So this way you can just kind of cheat and place a fence even when you're building something crazy like this, when you create stairs with a combination of terrain and a foundation piece. You can't connect foundation pieces that have different heights, but a little workaround is that you simply place some terrain in between. So you place your little section of foundation, then you just leave one grid in between empty. You place the next piece of foundation a little bit higher, and then you just fill in the gap with some terrain. And then when you want to add the fence, you just do it the way that I just explained. You place one little section, pick it up and place it there, and this way it just works. If this was a little bit confusing, you can go back and watch it again, and then I hope it makes sense. And I used some round roof pieces as some flower beds. For this, you just place a round piece of roof, you add some type of roof trim, you can pick any color you like really, and then you add a roof pattern that is dark brown, so it basically looks like soil, and this way you can create your own little round flower bed. And I wanted to make the fence very interesting and unique, so I used half boards to create these little pillars, and then they are obviously empty on the inside because these are just walls. So I used the little cube that is part of Get Famous. It's a little table basically. I placed it on the inside and raised it up to fill in the hole, and then I used some lamps that I again raised up and I placed them on top, and this way I could create some custom pillars. This just made the front look more interesting, and at this point I'm just filling in the gap on the right side with some rocks just to add more detail. And as you can see, this just looks so much better with the wood in the front, and I added a little lamp on top. I sized it up so it looks more like a centerpiece, you could say. And I added lots of shelves all around the house. Once again, this is just a way to create your own custom freezers basically, because we are really limited with how many freezers we can add and where we can add them. So this is just a nice way to create some custom freezers. And here I'm about to start to clean up the floor plan, as I like to call it. I know that many Sims builders kind of really have a plan what they are building, and they usually just start by building the wall for the floor plan, so they just kind of map out the shape of the house. But I rarely do that. I just kind of start with a section and then I kind of expand the house from that point on, and this way the floor plan is all over the place and I really have to clean it up and delete it all. And here I'm starting to work on the interior. So the interior was a lot of fun, and I tried to keep it rustic with a kind of modern touch, I would say. I really wanted to incorporate some modern elements without making the modern elements too overbearing, because at the end of the day I wanted this to be quite traditional. I decided to have a open floor plan because I feel like for a traditional kind of American family home, I know that this doesn't really look American, but this is kind of the inspiration that I had. I feel like a open floor plan totally makes sense for this. What I really love about open floor plans in real life and in The Sims is that everyone can kind of spend time together. It doesn't matter if someone is cooking in the kitchen or if someone is just eating something at the dining table or if someone is sitting in front of the TV. Everyone is kind of in one big room and is spending time together and can have a conversation. I really like that, so I kind of felt like this would be a good idea for a traditional family home like this. I wasn't really sure about the whole color scheme that I would be going for. I knew that I wanted to use a lot of brown and white, just like I did on the exterior, but at the same time, at some point, it just looked so boring, which is why I'm going to change a couple of things up. As you can see, I used the brown on the walls and a lot of white, and I kind of continued this theme for the rest of the rooms. So I used a lot of brown for the living room, and it kind of looked bland. I don't know, it just wasn't really happy with how the living room looked. So as you will see, I'm going to incorporate a lot of blue, and I'm also going to change the color in the back behind the shelves with the bottles on top to blue in the kitchen, because I felt like this was the only section where the blue was lacking at this point, and I don't know, really wanted to make it look balanced. So the dining table is right in front of the island counter, so it's all connected, and this is what I meant in the beginning. I feel like the floor plan kind of really makes sense. I'm going to add a front door later over there, so you enter the room and you have a little open hallway section. On the right side you have the dining table, and the dining table is perfectly aligned with the island counter and the kitchen, and the way the doorways are placed, it's not one of these totally crazy floor plans. It really does make sense. And on the left side I'm going to add the living room. I'm starting to work on that right now. I wanted to create a custom sofa like this, but again I'm going to change this up. The living room was kind of really tricky because while I was happy with the rest of the house at this point, I felt like it was too dark and too edgy. I don't know, I didn't like the amount of black that I used for the furniture. The kitchen counters are black, so I kind of felt like picking up that color scheme for the living room, but then I completely changed it. As I said, you will see this in a couple of seconds, and I feel like the blue that I incorporated made it really happy and really friendly. I really like this type of blue. I just love this. Like, for the longest time I thought about changing my living room to a beautiful blue. I don't know, I think it can look really good, especially in combination with some white furniture. It always depends, of course. It can be too blue and too clownish easily when you use a lot of colors, so it's kind of tricky to kind of find a middle ground, I'm sure. Also, as you saw, I used the pastel blue flowers on the exterior, and as I said, I really just wanted to have a very slight pop of color on the exterior, but I kind of continued these on the inside, but the blue that I used for the interior is much bluer. It's really popping, as you will see. It's a very vibrant, happy blue. I incorporated lots of clutter. I really started to do that, so it just looks more like a realistic house. It looks like there's actually someone living there. I feel like clutter is something that gives a house a lot of life, but I still don't like to use too much clutter because I feel like it's something that can easily be overdone, so you kind of have to find the right amount of clutter, I think. And here you can finally see the blue wallpaper that I chose, and I used it's a wall sign, I think. I used it at the bottom of the wall, so it's kind of a paneling that I created. I think it's amazing to have this contrast between the blue and the white. As I said, I feel like this type of blue goes so well with white furniture. And in the kitchen I used some blue at the back of the wall, and I added this rug, so I kind of changed a couple of things, and then I kind of had my heart set on a specific style that I was going for the interior. Furnishing a house is a lot of fun. It can also be tricky. I mentioned this before, but back then I used CC to furnish my houses before I started this channel, so I was really used to use CC. So I'm still kind of in the process of really kind of improving my furnishing skill and trying out new things, and it's always a lot of fun. And this is another living room basically. I added a spandrel on top, and this room again looks quite friendly. I used a orange rug in the center. At first I wasn't sure if this is kind of too much color, but I just loved how the orange looks in combination with the blue on the wall. It's just so beautiful. And I used a lot of white for this once again. So this room is basically a second living room, but I also added a desk and a computer and a little reading corner. So this is kind of a combination of a second living room and an office, I think. So this house is quite big, and just like many big mansions, there are multiple rooms where you can hang out and sit. A lot of big houses have a kind of family room and also a formal living room where you would entertain guests, for example. But this is really a combination. This is kind of a fancy office, but I didn't want to use the same layout that I use for many offices. I really like to place the desk in the center of the office, and then I like to place 2 armchairs in front of the desk, but in this case I really wanted to make it completely different. So this is a hybrid, a office living room hybrid basically. And this is the bathroom. For the bathroom I used a lot of blue, so it kind of goes well together with the rest of the house. I used these wonderful base game counters, and it's such a beautiful, friendly bathroom. I really love the light in this room. It just looks so happy and so friendly. I really like that. Also, I wanted to ask you guys if you would be interested in me doing some type of let's build where I would build something in real time. Of course, I would have to split it in multiple parts, but it would be a real-time build that I just narrate while building, just like you would do when you, for example, stream and you build something, because I feel like this would be something different and a lot of fun, maybe something really spectacular, a cool mansion or something. I don't know if you guys would be actually interested in seeing something like this, or if you would like to watch speed builds and nothing else basically. So just let me know in the comments down below if something like this could be fun for you guys. And this is technically just a hallway, the hallway that leads to the bathroom, but I also kind of made a combination of another small living room and an office. I put an easel in the corner, and I also put a piano there, so just another beautiful room. As I said earlier, there are 4 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, so there is plenty of space in this house, and it kind of makes sense to have enough kind of little corners where Sims can do something, improve their skill and hang out. So I felt like that this kind of makes sense. Of course, as always, this house is available in the gallery, and this house is fully furnished. I didn't record the furnishing of the whole second floor because it was just too much. It was already so long, but here you can see the master bedroom. This is where the parents, for example, could sleep. I used a lot of blue again, but I really toned it down a notch. I just used blue for the curtains and the bed and this beautiful painting on the wall, and I really tried to make it look friendly. This bed is part of Seasons, I think, but I could be mistaken here. And I added a bathroom to that bedroom, so this is a ensuite technically, and there are 3 other bathrooms on this floor, so 4 in total. This is a beautiful pink bedroom. I really tried to make it look very happy and very kind of childish and like really playful and happy. I added lots of different objects, clutter, toys and all that. I really tried to make it look very bright and friendly. I used a combination of the pink and the white because I feel like white is just such a beautiful color for a kid's room, or maybe even for a nursery. This house doesn't include a nursery, but I feel like this is just such a typical color for a beautiful, very kid-friendly room in my opinion. And this is another kid's room, so I built 2 pink ones and 1 blue ones, I think, if I'm not mistaken here. And I just used a lot of blue and again tried to make it very child friendly. And for this build I also sized down the doll houses. I also did this for my last build, I think, and I already mentioned this, but I'm going to mention this again. I saw this on Twitter, I think, and you can simply size down the doll houses. In this way they're still functional, but you don't have these huge unrealistic doll houses. So this is it, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed this speed build. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this speed build, please like and subscribe, and I hope that I see you in the next video, and I hope that you have a fantastic week. Bye bye.